Remember when Saturday afternoons meant red swimsuits and David Hasselhoff running toward the surf? Pamela Anderson and the most parodied theme in TV history hit a canceled show personally rescued by its own star. Today, we're counting down 15 weird facts you never knew about Baywatch. Number 15. Every time you see Mitch Buchanan stride out of the surf with that lifeguard captain authority, you are watching a show that only exists because of a real ocean rescue that happened 12 years before the cameras ever rolled. Co-creator Greg Bonann was a working LA County lifeguard who pulled the children of GTG Entertainment executive Stu Irwin Jr. out of a dangerous riptide at Will Rogers State Beach in 1977. Irwin was so grateful that he helped Bonann get the Baywatch pitch in front of NBC executive Brandon Tartikoff. Without that single real-life rescue, there is no meeting, no pilot order, and no series. Bonann had no industry background whatsoever. He was a lifeguard, not a TD producer, not a writer, and not an agent. That rescue gave him a personal connection to a studio executive that no spec script could have opened. He insisted on real rescue consultants, real equipment, and one actual working LA County lifeguard in the main cast throughout the run. Here's what makes it even more layered. The show's set was built directly above the real Will Rogers State Beach lifeguard headquarters. The tower had mirrored windows specifically so on-duty guards could continue their actual shifts without interruption during filming. Every heroic-looking save you watched on Saturday afternoons was happening 10 feet above real lifeguards doing the exact same thing for real. And the show's title was almost something completely unrecognizable. Number 14. Before the show was called Baywatch, the working title was ACES, short for Aquatic Corps for Emergency Service. Producers eventually replaced it with the name of the actual red and white rescue boats LA County lifeguards had been using for decades, with the logo designed by Bonann's longtime friend and fellow lifeguard John Johnson. The bigger near miss, though, was the face of the entire franchise. The role of Mitch Buchanan was reportedly offered to Tom Selleck first. Selleck turned it down because he did not want to be typecast as a sex symbol after Magnum, P.I. Producers then reportedly considered Lorenzo Lamas, William Catt, Tom Wopat, and Adrian Paul before David Hasselhoff entered the conversation, freshly finished with Knight Rider on NBC. Hasselhoff has said in interviews that he initially dismissed the project as Knight Rider in a bathing suit and had to be persuaded before saying yes. That matters enormously because Hasselhoff was never just the star. He would become the show's executive producer, its international selling point, and the person who kept it alive when the network canceled it entirely. Selleck's version of Mitch would have had a completely different energy, tougher, more Magnum, more grounded dramatic authority. The tone of the show shifts in your imagination the moment you picture that famous mustache behind the rescue tube. The lead was almost a completely different person. So was his on-screen son. Number 13. Jeremy Jackson played Hobie Buchanan across 9 seasons, becoming the kid every Baywatch fan grew up watching from the syndicated premiere onward. But according to David Hasselhoff's own retellings and the After Baywatch docuseries, a young Leonardo DiCaprio reportedly came close to landing that exact role first. Hasselhoff reportedly pushed back, concerned that placing a visibly teenage actor opposite him would make Mitch look too old on screen, so the part went to Brandon Call for the original NBC pilot, then to Jeremy Jackson when the syndicated relaunch began. DiCaprio went on to book Growing Pains instead, which led directly to What's Eating Gilbert Grape and his first Academy Award nomination. He walked away from the most watched show on Earth and straight into an art house career that made him one of the defining movie stars of the next 30 years. Jackson stayed for 9 seasons. His long arc on Baywatch and the difficult personal struggles documented afterward became one of the most discussed and quietly heartbreaking stories in the After Baywatch documentary decades later. 2 careers split apart completely because of a single producing decision about whether one actor made another look too old on camera. That fork happens quietly, between seasons, with no announcement and no fanfare. Watch the early Hobie scenes knowing that pre-Gilbert Grape DiCaprio was in that conversation. Another major star did make it onto the show, just later and in a form nobody recognized at the time. Number 12. In 1999, Jason Momoa was 19 years old, had absolutely no acting experience, and showed up to a Baywatch audition in Honolulu. He told Story Horizon that he was chosen out of 1,300 people to play a lead role on Baywatch Hawaii, adding without any false modesty, "I didn't even know how to act." He was cast as Hawaiian lifeguard Jason Ioane for seasons 10 and 11. That was the only acting credit on his resume. before Stargate Atlantis, Game of Thrones, and Aquaman. He also met his first fiancée, Australian actress Simone Jade Makinen, on the Hawaii set during that same shoot. Here is the detail that makes this more than a fun footnote. The Hawaii seasons only existed because the original relocation plan, filming in Australia, had just been blocked by a local council. Without that failed pivot, Baywatch never lands in Honolulu, and Momoa is not in the casting pool at all. No Hawaii era means no early screen credits for the future Khal Drogo and Aquaman. Those Hawaii episodes are rarely discussed in Baywatch retrospectives. They now function as accidental archival footage of one of the biggest action stars of the 2020s, completely unformed, teaching himself to perform in front of a camera in real time. The reason Baywatch ended up in Hawaii at all is one of the stranger production stories in 90s television history. Number 11. The original plan for the show's 1999 relocation was Avalon Beach in New South Wales, Australia. The working title was Baywatch Down Under. A pilot was actually filmed before Pittwater Council, and local residents voted permanently against the production, citing concerns about environmental damage from a full-scale American television crew operating on that stretch of coast. An entire coastal community said no to Hollywood. Producers scrambled for a new plan. Hawaii's Governor Ben Cayetano and the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau stepped in with a tax incentive package worth an estimated $870,000 per episode, eventually climbing to $1.1 million. 60% had to be spent in state. The deal included a guaranteed 44-episode order, and the title was contractually required to change to Baywatch Hawaii. Greg Bonann pitched the arrangement personally to Governor Cayetano and executive producer April Massini. Without that diplomatic save, the show's final 2 seasons simply do not exist. The entire Hawaii era, Jason Momoa's casting, the new ensemble overhaul, the sunset of the original LA cast, happened entirely because a small Australian beach town voted against it in a local council meeting. Watch the season 10 premiere and notice the unfamiliar reefs and different sky. That is literally the second choice beach, chosen after the first choice rejected the production. Before all of this, though, the show had already died once, and the way it came back is genuinely extraordinary. Number 10. In the 1989 to 90 Nielsen ratings, Baywatch placed 73rd out of 103 shows. NBC canceled it in spring 1990. Simultaneously, its production company GTG Entertainment, a joint venture between television legend Grant Tinker and media company Gannett, collapsed into bankruptcy. The show ended up with neither a network nor a studio at the same moment, completely finished. Or so it seemed. Tinker sold the rights back to Greg Bonann for $10. Bonann has recounted the story multiple times. Tinker said, "Write the check right now and take it back." Bonann wrote the check. Tinker never cashed it. He had it framed and returned it to Bonann at the show's 250th episode anniversary. Without that $10 handshake, the rights sit in a bankruptcy estate and no revival is possible. The show you grew up watching is a single NBC season and a forgotten footnote in 1990s television history. The NBC Season 1 episodes, featuring original cast members Sean Weatherly and Billy Warlock with an entirely different tone and feel, were quietly excluded from the syndication package for years afterward. Most viewers who grew up watching Baywatch in the 1990s have never seen a single frame of the original version. Bonann had his rights back for $10. Now he needed someone to take a genuine financial risk on a canceled, failed show, and one person was willing to do exactly that. Number 9. David Hasselhoff did not simply return to Baywatch as its star. He came back as one of its owners. He partnered with Bonann, Michael Burke, and Douglas Schwartz to revive the show in first-run syndication, reportedly deferring portions of his salary in exchange for an equity stake in the production itself. Fremantle Corp president Paul Talbot told the Baltimore Sun in 1995 that the NBC version cost well above $1 million per episode, and the syndicated version dropped to approximately $800,000, with international pre-sales filling the gap. Hasselhoff described the 4-person revival team this way: "One of us was a writer, one of us was a director, one of us was the lifeguard. I was the PR guy, the star, keeping up the morale." Here is why the German pre-sale revenue made the numbers work. Hasselhoff's recording career had already made him a genuine phenomenon across Europe. His song "Looking for Freedom" spent 8 consecutive weeks at number 1 on the West German charts in 1989. During the same weeks, the Berlin Wall came down. That pre-existing celebrity had already primed an entire continent to watch whatever he appeared in next. The syndication deal that saved Baywatch was partly underwritten by a German pop music career that had absolutely nothing to do with lifeguards. When you see Hasselhoff smiling on the syndicated-era beach, he is literally watching his own equity appreciate. That tight budget forced the show's most iconic creative decision. Number 8. The slow-motion beach run is the most parodied shot in 90s television. Friends did it. Saturday Night Live did it. The Simpsons did it. Every comedy writer in the decade took a swing. It is Baywatch's entire visual identity compressed into 30 seconds. It was invented because the show ran out of money. Co-creator Michael Burke told interviewers that producers were short on both budget and screen time during production and invented slow-motion montages specifically to fill the runtime at minimal cost. David Hasselhoff confirmed it to Men's Health directly. That came about organically because we had no money. We didn't have enough financing to finish the show. Greg Bonann had also recently returned from the 1988 Seoul Olympics with high frame rate footage from the 100-meter dash, which provided the visual template for the look. The technique debuted in the very first NBC episode, Panic at Malibu Pier, and it never left. Every parody, every homage, every reference traces back to an accounting shortfall in a low-budget syndicated production. This is one of the clearest examples in television history of a budget problem accidentally creating an enduring cultural icon. The slow-motion sprint cost less than any other footage in the episode, and it ended up defining the show for 11 seasons and decades of pop culture memory. Every sprint is a production IOU wearing sunscreen. All right, we're at the halfway mark and things are about to get even wilder. Before we hit the top 7, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Baywatch quote or moment? Drop it in the comments. And if you're enjoying this, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel grow. Number 7. Pamela Anderson joined Baywatch in Season 3 as CJ Parker and immediately became the show's global face. International ratings surged the year she arrived. Within 2 seasons, the show was reaching its peak worldwide viewership. By virtually every available metric, Anderson transformed Baywatch's global reach almost overnight. She was paid approximately $1,500 per episode her first season. Anderson confirmed the number herself in a 2025 Andy Cohen interview. When asked directly whether she made the same as Hasselhoff, she replied without any hesitation, "Are you kidding? No, of course not, no." Hasselhoff had personally offered her the CJ role after her successful run on Home Improvement. He recognized what the combination of her public profile and CJ's unconventional New Age personality, crystals, meditation, dream interpretation, could do for the show's global appeal in particular. Anderson later told interviewers she was drawn to CJ because the character thought differently, and that philosophical dimension was shaped partly around her own real interests and active input into the role. The gap between Anderson's $1,500 weekly rate and her contribution to the show's billion-viewer audience is one of the starkest compensation imbalances in 90s television history. The most recognized image in the show's entire run was filmed for roughly $1,500 a week. That red swimsuit eventually traveled considerably further than Malibu. Number 6. An original CJ Parker swimsuit is currently a featured centerpiece in the Design Museum London's 2025 exhibition Splash, A Century of Swimming in Style. It was loaned from Germany's Bikini Art Museum, which acquired the suit from David Hasselhoff's personal collection. Curator Amber Butchart told CNN it was one of the costliest individual pieces in the entire exhibition to ensure. The suits themselves were built from actual Southern California competition lifeguard gear. The real equipment, worn by real LA County guards on duty, then custom tailored to each actor's specific proportions. That is why they look simultaneously athletic and cinematic. They were designed for function first, and everything else followed. Pamela Anderson has since launched her own swimwear line, explicitly distancing her current aesthetic from what she has described as the performative quality of the Baywatch era. The costume has traveled in a single generation from TV wardrobe to insured museum artifact. It is the only television costume from its decade currently displayed alongside Olympic gold medals in a major international design institution. Nobody planned for that outcome. No network executive, no costume designer, and certainly not the production team that fitted the suits on a per-episode turnaround to save time between takes. The most photographed TV costume of the 90s is now insured for considerably more than most cast members were paid to wear it, and the cast that wore them kept changing every season for a very specific reason. Number 5. Nicole Eggert played Summer Quinn across seasons 3 and 4, and was one of the show's most recognizable faces during its early syndicated run. She left, and the general assumption was simply that the revolving cast format was how Baywatch operated. But the real reason is considerably more specific. Eggert revealed on the Still Here Hollywood podcast in 2025 that she had been promised a Beverly Hills 9210-style Baywatch spinoff centered on her character before she agreed to join a beach high school drama built around Summer Quinn. When Baywatch itself became the #1 show in the world, producers canceled the planned spinoff to protect the parent franchise. Eggert left because the show was no longer what she had signed up to do. Erica Eleniak, who played Shawnee McClain through the early syndicated seasons, made a similar exit around the same period. She told the Mercury News that she recognized the moment perfectly. "My swan song was the introduction of CJ Parker, Pamela Anderson's character. And, I mean, they hit the lottery." The revolving cast that defined Baywatch's identity was not a creative strategy. It was the direct consequence of protecting a #1 franchise at the expense of the ensemble that originally built it. Every departure opened a slot. Every slot was filled from the same pipeline: major magazine exposure first, then Baywatch. The next person who came through that door arrived by the most unusual route of all. #4. Carmen Electra arrived on Baywatch as Lonnie McKenzie with very little television experience and a great deal of stage presence. Co-star David Chokachi noted publicly that by the time Electra joined, producers had specifically decided the cast needed to do their own water stunts because audience complaints about visible doubles had become a real problem. Her path to the role is remarkable. Her stage name was personally given to her by Prince after he signed her to Paisley Park Records, produced her self-titled 1993 debut album, and brought her on as his opening act on the Diamonds and Pearls tour. She went directly from MTV's Singled Out and Prince's Glam Slam nightclub to lifeguard duty on the most-watched show on Earth. Electra told the After Baywatch docuseries that the stunt requirement came from genuine audience feedback about authenticity, and she delivered. Her first on-screen kiss with Chokachi was, by her own account in the same documentary, significantly more enthusiastic than the script indicated. What reads on screen as sun-drenched beach confidence is actually pop stage performance energy channeled through a red swimsuit. Every smooth, self-assured scene Lonnie McKenzie appears in traces back to tour choreography, not any lifeguard credential. And none of those performers were actually pretending when the water work got serious. The rescue sequences were considerably more real than the show's glamorous reputation suggests, and at least one crossed the line from fictional drama into genuine emergency. #3. Alexandra Paul played Stephanie Holden across multiple seasons and has been candid about something the show's sun-soaked reputation tends to obscure. Guest actors routinely lied in auditions about their ability to swim. They assumed stunt doubles would handle the water sequences. On Baywatch's per-episode budget, that assumption was wrong. Paul told the World Open Water Swimming Association that during a Hawaii shoot, a male guest actor she was rescuing on camera actually panicked in open water after the crew boat had left the area. He began drowning for real. Paul, a former junior lifeguard, performed a genuine rescue. The actor later told her she had saved his life. She also revealed that Yasmine Bleeth had a strong aversion to water scenes, leading Paul and David Chokachi to informally compete to take each other's rescue assignments, as a running competition across multiple seasons. The element that held everything together was Michael Newman, a genuine working LA County lifeguard who appeared in 109 episodes over 10 seasons, third most of any performer behind Hasselhoff and Jeremy Jackson. He coached every cast member and handled the water sequences no one else could safely execute. He reportedly said of his longevity on the show, "I was too useful for them to get rid of me." Many of those rescue swims involved the actual cast in real open water. At least one rescue that played as drama was a genuine emergency. #2. In 1989, Baywatch was the 73rd ranked show on American network television. NBC canceled it. By 1995, the Guinness Book of World Records had certified it as the most watched television program in human history, with an estimated 1.1 billion weekly viewers across 142 countries and translations into 33 to 42 languages. 1.1 billion people, every single week. That figure is roughly double the worldwide television audience that watched the 1969 moon landing, measured continuously week after week for years. Fremantle Corps President Paul Talbot told the Baltimore Sun in July 1995 that he had stopped selling the show by country and was now selling it by language instead. It aired on Rupert Murdoch's Star TV satellite system into China and India. It played on private satellite dishes in Iran. It ran across Eastern Europe and South America simultaneously. The German presale revenue that made the syndication model financially viable was built entirely on Hasselhoff's 1989 music career. Looking for Freedom sat at #1 in West Germany for 8 consecutive weeks during the fall of the Berlin Wall, a pop song that accidentally pre-funded the global distribution of a show that was canceled the same year it charted. Every episode you watched as a teenager was simultaneously airing in Mumbai, Manila, Munich, and a satellite dish somewhere outside Tehran. That simultaneous scale of viewership has not been replicated since. And it all started from 73rd place, #1. Here is the full picture of what Baywatch actually was, underneath the sunscreen and the slow-motion sprints. A canceled NBC series, 73rd place, no network, no studio, production company bankrupt, bought back from the ruins for $10, and relaunched on a handshake and deferred salaries. Its most iconic visual was invented to fill time the production could not afford to shoot any other way. Its global star was a former Knight Rider lead whose German pop music career accidentally pre-funded the European distribution deal that made the revival viable. Its biggest cast member was paid $1,500 a week while generating a billion-viewer audience. Its red swimsuit now lives in a London museum. Its Hawaii era exists because an Australian beach town voted no. It gave early screen credits to Leonardo DiCaprio, who walked, and Jason Momoa, who showed up not knowing how to act and eventually became Aquaman. Running in parallel across the same syndication window was Baywatch Nights. 44 episodes of Mitch Buchanan fighting vampires, reanimated Vikings, sea monsters, and time-traveling log cabins. Same character, same schedule. Different horror creature every episode. The most watched program in human history was built on every decision that should have killed it. A real ocean rescue, a $10 handshake, a Berlin Wall pop song, one council vote in New South Wales, all of it fed into something that reached 1 billion people a week. Baywatch survived network cancellation, studio bankruptcy, and a $10 rights deal to become the most watched television program ever certified by the Guinness Book of World Records. Every visual decision that made it iconic, the slow-motion run, the red swimsuit, the revolving cast, was a budget solution or a canceled plan that became a cultural institution. A deferred salary, a pop song at #1 during the fall of the Berlin Wall, and one council vote in New South Wales built something that reached 1.1 billion people a week. None of it was designed to last. If this video surprised you, drop your favorite fact in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves this movie as much as you do. And as always, I'll be watching. We'll see you next time.